Hello. Welcome to my channel, friends. My name is Lynn, and I am going to be playing along with Kendra's card challenge number 21, and I'm going to show you my process from beginning to end. I used to do these videos a while ago. It's been a while since I've played along with the challenge in full, and I'm excited to start doing these videos again and sharing with you my process, starting with picking my pattern papers. If you've never played along with Kendra's card challenge, this is the video for you because I'm gonna go from picking my papers, cutting the 6 sheets of 6x6 pattern papers that I choose, and creating all 15 card sketches that you get in the free downloadable PDF file. I'll tell you all about that in a moment, but let's just start and dive in. So with this set of cards, I am going to be crafting with the Stamps of Life January card kit. So many goodies in here. I already did an unboxing, but where I'm going to start is with the pattern papers. So you get a really lovely 6x6 pattern paper. I think these paper pads are so perfect for KCC, and the reason is because you get some really fun, whimsical, very thematic patterns. These are cute penguins, are just adorable. Something you don't always see in a paper pad: solids. There's several solids that coordinate with these colors perfectly. So you get solids, you get cut aparts, really fabulous. So I've got my focal images in here, and then you've got these really small repeat patterns, really easy to craft with these. So when you're done crafting this theme of penguins, you can always just flip to the back of these super themed patterns and then just craft with the back because you get a really nice basic print. But what that means is that when you're picking your 6 sheets of 6x6 papers to craft with, if you craft with a double-sided paper pad like this one, you are going to have double the choices to craft with when you go to assemble your cards, and I think that's really fabulous. So if you are new to Kendra's card challenge, what you want to do is expand the description box below, and there will be a link to where you can pop on over to Kendra's Patreon, sign up as a free member if you are not already signed up. You can join the 6,000 plus people who are already there and download this printable for free. Now, the card sketch challenge runs quarterly, so each challenge is open for 3 months. During that entire 3 months, you can get the printable for free, but afterwards, only paid patron members will have access to the past challenges. We're up to challenge number 21, and this challenge runs from January 31st until January 1st until March 31st. So when you download this, you'll see some instructions. These are the QR codes that you would scan to take you directly to the InLinkz page where you can submit your full set of 15 cards to enter for a chance to win some amazing prizes that have been donated to us by our amazing sponsors. More on that later. Now, if we continue to flip along, what you're going to find in this PDF is a cutting guide. So the cutting guide shows you how to cut 6 sheets of 6x6 pattern paper. And I'm going to be doing this in real time so you can follow along with me. And then the following pages give you some instructions. Especially if you've never played along with KCC before, read this. And that'll give you a nice refresher, some nice tips on how to play along with the challenge. Or you can watch instructional videos like this one, or Beth and Kendra on the KCC team are also going to be sharing instructional videos where we show you our full process. That way, if you never played along before, find one of these instructional videos and we'll step you through it. And as well, you can follow our design team because they will also be sharing videos and tutorials for different sketches in this challenge. But what you'll find is 15 card sketch challenges. Sketch number 4, really special, as a special collaboration with Sheetload of Cards by Call Me Crafty L here on YouTube, and this is part of her Sheetload vault. So Call Me Crafty L puts out a new Sheetload design every single month. Another fantastic resource for card sketches. And as well, her sketch, whatever is the most current sketch, is available for you to download for free. Just watch her, go to her channel, watch her pinned video, and you'll find out all about her sheet load and how to get it for free. After the current month, the only people who have access to her vault of sheet loads, past sheet loads, are her channel members. So this special collaboration between Kendra and Alicia makes August 2025's sheet load available for you to craft with. So really excited for that. And then the last page in the printable is, it's got so much information. And in fact, this is where I'm going to start when I pick my 6 sheets of pattern paper. So this table here tells you, it's kind of nice. It's a nice reference that shows you for each of the 6 pattern papers, which number card sketch does that paper get featured in. And for me, it's less important which exact card, sketches it's featured in. What's more interesting to me is what are the various different pattern paper combinations, so that when I'm picking my papers, I'm going to keep in mind which ones need to be combined with each other and which ones are mostly used on their own. So for example, here's what I mean. If you look at paper A here, paper A is going to get featured with paper E. Paper A gets featured with paper B. Paper A gets featured with papers C and D. And that's it. So paper A basically needs to go with just about every other pattern paper that I'm using, except for F. Now let's look at F. There's only 3 sketches that F is featured in, and 2 of them, it's solo. So paper F only gets featured with paper E on 1 sketch at that. So paper F, I feel like I could go like super thematic and very maybe fancy and different, and whereas paper A, because it has to get coordinated, or it gets featured with so many other papers, I might choose something a little bit more neutral for paper A, because it's going to be used in combination with so many other patterns. So for example, here's paper F. So let's just start there, because I think that's going to be a really easy one to pick. So paper F, it gets used in these 3 sketches here. And if you want to also be looking at the cutting guide, paper F looks like this. Now, you'll note there are arrows. So paper F on sketch 14, this piece gets used on sketch 14, and the orientation points upward like this. Whereas paper F on sketch 13, this piece actually is rotated and up is that way. So it looks like that on this sketch. So if I were to use a directional pattern here, so this is where the reason why you might want to pay attention to these arrows is if you were to use this as a directional paper, then the orientations are going to be different. So there's a lot of different ways that you can tackle that. So let's look at our pattern papers for a second. So I'm gonna let's pick something. Let's pick something kind of fun. Like, there's lots of penguins. This has super fun penguins in here. So let me pick a pattern that has. I don't want anything too big because these little skinny sections, if it's a really big pattern, I feel like you're just not gonna really get to see too much of that pattern. How about something like, let me just flip through, maybe something like this. Okay, this is a great option here, because if we look at this, it's very clearly got rows and rows of these penguins, but this paper, I feel like if it were oriented like this, where that's pointed up, this piece works great for cutting my penguins out like this. Now, because the other two sketches, it's basically paper F by itself, I can just rotate these sketches so that if I cut this, if I orient my paper like this so that up follows this, then for the other sketches, I can just rotate it. And then instead of making a portrait card, I can make a landscape card. And I think these sketches would work just as well in landscape and portrait. So I think this will be a really fun one for a fun choice for paper F. And the other alternative is I can cut this just as I see it, with it face up like this, up being oriented that way, leave these two sketches that way. And the way to address the fact that this paper is not going to be oriented the same way is I can rotate this sketch, or I can always flip to the back and use the back piece there. So you've got lots of options. It's nice to still pay attention to the orientation as you're making your paper choices, but just know that you've definitely got options. If you need to rotate a sketch, you can rotate a sketch. This is also why I like to recommend that you use double-sided papers, because then you have lots of options. Okay, so that gives us paper F. Let's just continue to move backwards, yeah? So paper E gets featured with A. Paper E gets featured with C and D. And E also gets featured with B. So basically paper E gets featured with all of them. Every single other paper. So in that case, I feel like what I want to do is I want to find a paper that, and I've already torn out, each unique design just so that I can easily kind of shuffle between them. And so there's some that have my cut aparts, which I think I want to save these for my focal images. So if I can avoid but it's got that beautiful color. Okay, I'm gonna set these aside for now. You do get 2 sheets of each of the designs. So I'm gonna set those aside for now, and we'll see if we can just save those for the other thing that's really cool about this paper pad is there's like 2 different scales. So you have small fish, big fish, small typography, big typography. You've got a small penguin, and then there's also a large penguin print that is the same pattern. It's just scaled up. So let me get that as a choice. This is kind of like how I like to play with my pattern papers. I like to get one of each unique one out there, and then that way I have I can kind of see all my choices, see all of my options, shuffle between them. And I think this is the last one. So okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, there might be one more, because I think there's 12 unique designs. and you got 2 of each. So this is one. Okay. See how there's like same pattern, it's just 2 different scales. So really like that. Okay, so because E gets featured alongside every other one, I'm gonna actually flip to the back, and I think what I want for paper E is a nice solid. I'm just gonna go with a nice solid. And this is a solid that is mostly solid, very monochromatic, small repeat, or that's not a repeat, it's a pattern. But I think solid is a really good choice, and that's not always a choice with a paper pad. So I really love how the Stamps of Life curates their paper pads. It's really ideal for KCC. So big thank you to the Stamps of Life for being a super sponsor and providing me with these goodies to craft with, because it's such an ideal paper pad for the challenge. Okay, now let's go down to, I feel pretty good. I don't have to really look at the sketches. I think a solid color is going to work great, whichever sketch it's featured in. Paper D gets featured alongside C, B and D, and E. So again, it's used pretty extensively and paired with basically every other pattern except for F. And so let's just take a peek at how it's being used. It's being used a lot with C. Like, big parts of C and D are visible. So when I go to pick, I really want that combination to look super good. This is more about the pattern of a lot of things. So I think really anything goes there. And paper D is orange, so it's just little strips here with B, and it does get featured with B twice. So when I choose my paper D, I really want it, I feel, to look good with C and with B, because it gets featured with both of those solo, more or less, and rather prominently as well. So let's see what our options are. What's a good option for... Oh, you know what I want to also look at with the sketches is the directionality. So let's look at that. Oh, check this out. Look at paper E. I might actually change my option for E, because check this out. E can actually be directional. All of the arrows point up or diagonal. And diagonal really, it can be used in any direction. So that's a rare thing, I feel. So I'm actually going to use that opportunity to pick one of these, the typography one. Oh yeah, I love that. Okay, so this is my new paper E, because you don't often get the opportunity to use a directional, especially one where you want it to be legible. So I definitely want to use that there. So let's go back to, let's look at D for directionality. So these arrows show you which way that piece will be oriented on the card, and most of the big pieces are in one direction, and then there's like these small little strips that are in the opposite direction. So I kind of feel like that's a good opportunity to maybe use a print that has a larger pattern to it. So maybe this would be a good choice. And I know I can always flip to the back if it's used in the other direction. Maybe I'll just use the back. Because usually these small little pieces are not the best for large patterns like this, because you're going to see so little of it that you're not going to really be able to appreciate the pattern. So I'll show you what I mean. So we're looking at paper D, and if we look at the sketches, you can see, oh, these are circles. So you have to imagine if I cut a circle out of that, am I still going, how much of those penguins will I still be able to see? Maybe I want to dial back and take it down a notch, maybe use the smaller print. And I still have an option of a pattern on the back. So that could be an option. This could also be a really nice option too for paper D. Have fish, row of fish. And I think this is a nice medium-sized print. It's not super small. So on these larger pieces, it still can be pretty prominent. And even on these little strips here, I think you would be able to see it just fine. So I think I'm gonna go with the fish for paper D. And I always have the reassurance that I can flip to the back if I really wanted. So I think that's a good option. Now let's keep going back to paper C. So paper C is featured with D, which we already saw. It's featured with B and A. And it's featured with E. So here's another one that's featured with just about everything else. But remember, it's used quite a lot with D and in large pieces too. So really I want to focus on whatever I choose for C. I think I really want to make sure it looks good with this fish pattern here. So let's take a look at the papers I've got and let's see what would go really nicely with that. So I could pair it with a really nice repeat pattern. Thinking maybe this. Oh, that's not bad also. Or something like this, so it's very monochromatic. I kind of like that. Yeah, I think I might go with that. Oh, and it's the fish. It's the smaller fish pattern. So I think that's going to be really nice and makes this a safe choice for C too, as it gets combined with other sketches. So small patterns like this are going to be really, really easy to use on any sketch. Let's move on down to B. B gets featured with A. B gets featured with C and D. And with E. So B is featured with everything else also. So let's look at the actual sketches. So here we have B pretty prominent with pretty big pieces of C. Pretty small pieces of B here. B is the yellow piece there. And then on these sketches, oh, B and A definitely feel like, I really want that combination to sing. And B gets featured with D here as well. And then it's solo on that card. So let's take a look at B. My guess is that it is, look at the arrows. They're all over. You got a lot going this way, a lot going that way. So best if it's non-directional, but as I mentioned, you can always flip to the back. So it's really kind of easy to craft with these. So let's see. B gets featured solo and with A quite a bit and with C. So this one's paper C. So let's see, what's a nice one to go with that? I kind of feel like this is kind of nice. A nice little pattern. If I need for these small little pieces, I can always flip to the back and it would coordinate because that color is here. And then this sort of turquoise color fits with the flowers and the belly of the penguin. So I think this could be a good choice for B. It'll be kind of fun. So there's that. And then paper A, I recall pretty much needs to go with everything. It's used in large part by itself on 1, 2, and 3. There's only like a little sliver of paper E here. And paper E is this. That's going to be used as an angle. So paper A gets used a lot by itself. And then the other place where it's featured heavily is this, which is with paper B, the one that we just chose. So let's pick a good choice for A that mostly goes well with B, because even though it's listed as being used in combination with everything else, it's really this sketch, you know, because there's 4 different papers used here. So so let's find a good match to be there. Oh, this would go kind of nice. You get some good contrast. Plus, I would have a nice solid that I can use for other sketches if needed. This paper B, though, these cuts, let's see. I don't know if these end up being cut in such a way that I think you can actually orient. Let's see. Yeah. See how this is sketch number 4. See how the pieces on sketch number 4, some of them go this way and some of them go that way. So if you don't mind your penguins being in a pinwheel and changing their orientation, which could be fun, it might end up being that I use this for sketch 4, which gives me the opportunity for sketch number A to maybe use something a little bit fun, a little bit different, maybe a pattern like that. But let's just assume I'm going to use B the way that I'm going to use it. And I think this is a safe bet for A. Or the other option is this one. Oh, this is really pretty too. This might work a little bit better. I think these colors go a little bit better. And then these colors also match a little bit better. Okay, so I think those are going to be my paper choices. We're going to go with this for A. This is B, C, D, E, and F. So there we have our papers chosen. Okay, so what is the next step? Now, I'm going to break this video into multiple videos because it's going to be, to do the full challenge, it will take quite a bit of time. Especially this process I want to do in real time, at least this one time, just to show you my thought process for picking my pattern papers. I probably won't go through that every single instructional video, but I definitely wanted to at least do it the one time, since it's been a while since I've crafted the full challenge. So it's always nice, even for me, to get a little bit of a refresher. And I want to do the cutting in real time as well. And so I'm gonna probably end this video after I cut all of my pieces, and then I'll have a separate video for how to assemble the 15 cards. All right, friends, let's start to cut down the 6 sheets of pattern paper that I chose into all of the pieces that I will need, and in a separate video I'll start to put together all of the cards. But let's start with actually cutting down our papers. Now, what I like to have on hand as I get started is I like to have my cutting guide, of course, my pattern papers, and I like to have something that I can use to organize all of the pieces I'm about to cut by sketch number. That way, as I get all of these little pieces cut down, I can just pop them into these envelopes or these cello bags. And if you sell your cards, These are just A2 size cello bags, which are really great for if you sell your cards. It's a nice professional way to present your cards. And what I like to do is, even though I don't sell my bags, sometimes I give them away as gift sets. And I've labeled each bag with a number to represent the sketch number, but this is with a dry erase marker. So it's going to be really easy for me to erase that later. Oh, it's with a wet erase marker. Okay, so you might want to have something on hand so that you can organize all of your pieces. And I definitely recommend organizing them by sketch number so that you can, when you go to assemble a particular sketch, you can just pull out that one little baggie and start from there. Now, one thing that if you are crafting with a paper pad like I am, this is from the Stamps of Life, and if you look, the reason why it doesn't quite look square is because it's not. So check this out. It's actually 6 inches in this one direction, but in this direction it is 6.5 inches. And that's actually quite nice for us, even though they used to do this with paper pads that, remember pads that had the hole punched through the top so that it could hang, you know, in like if it was sold at Michael's, for example, they used to have the hole so it can hang on a shelf. And even though that's not the case anymore, there's no hole there, you get an extra ½ inch to craft with. But what that means though for the challenge is that you want to cut this down to 6x6. So that's going to be my first cut. That's just so that I can get this to be 6x6. So this is just going to be a little bit of extra. Maybe I can put it on the inside of a card, for example. So I'll just set that aside. Okay, so here's the scissor icon. Now, that's going to be my first cut, but where do I make that cut? So if I orient my paper like this, that cut's going to come from here. And it's going to be at the 3-inch mark because this line shows 3 inches. If you add each of these segments up, it's going to add up to 3 inches. So I'm basically going to cut my pattern paper in half right there. So I'm just going to go put this at the 3-inch mark and cut. Okay, so then I have the top and the bottom of what I just cut. Now let's focus on the top half. So I want to find a line that goes from one edge to the next, all the way clear to the other side, without bisecting or cutting through a segment. So let's look at our choices. We're just looking at the top half here. So if we're just looking at the top half, let's cover the bottom here. Our options are I can cut along this line and it goes all the way across. So that is an option. At this line, I can go to here, but if I kept cutting, it would actually slice this piece through the middle. And so this is not an option because it's going to bisect this little piece here. Then we have lines going down as well. So this line, again, I can start cutting here, and when I get to this part, it's going to start to cut into this piece. So that's a no-go. Same with this one. It's good up until here, and then if I continue cutting, it's going to cut into this piece here. So really the only line that can be my next cut is this one that goes from edge to edge. Where does that cut line need to go? 1.5 up from the bottom. I'm going to keep my pattern papers oriented the way I set it up to match with the cutting guide. So 1.5 up from the bottom is where my next cut will be. So put this in at 1.5. Okay. And this piece is done. This piece gets used just as is on sketch number 3. So now let's look at the remaining piece that I have here. So let's look at what our choices are. If I chose this line, remember I can cut up to here, but then if I kept on going, it would cut that banner off. But now look at these vertical lines. I can cut from this top edge to the bottom edge, and it is totally okay. It won't bisect any other pieces. So both of these are good choices for my next cuts. So let's do this. I'm actually going to cut this off first. So this just needs to be 3/4 of an inch off of the right edge. So I'm going to line up my edge to 5 1/4, which is the remaining bit here, and that's going to leave me 3/4 of an inch. Sometimes it's just easier to do that because you have a larger piece that you can hold on to. So this starts at 6 inches, right? And if I want 3/4 of an inch on this side, I just need to move it over 1/4, half, 3/4. And so when I cut this, I'll have 3/4 on this edge and then 5 1/4 on this edge. So let's go ahead and cut that. And that gives me that piece right there. Then I can make this cut as well. But I can also make this long cut because we've cut all of that so far. So now if you look at the lines remaining, this line goes all the way from one edge to the opposite edge, and it's totally okay. This line also goes from one edge to the opposite edge, totally okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this cut at 3 1/4 of an inch, and then this side will have 2 inches. So 3 1/4. And then this piece is going to be 2 inches, but those two pieces need to be cut in half at 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch tall, both of them. So now I just need to set this back in my trimmer, line it up at 3/4 of an inch. And cut. So there's that and that. And then same with this. Oh, that's at 1 inch. Okay. Measure twice, cut once. Okay. 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Perfect. All right. Okay, so we've got the top half done, the bottom half. Now, you'll notice that there are circles here, and it says a 3-inch circle. So if you want to just find like a 3-inch circle die, you can always die cut that later. That's what I'm gonna do. The circles I'll just die cut when I go to use it. And so what I'm gonna start with is just to cut these down into the squares. So now we've taken care of the top half. Let's look at the bottom half. Which line goes all the way through? I have a couple of options. I actually have some vertical line options. So I can use this line here, top to bottom. You can cut straight through and that's not gonna intersect or bisect any pieces. This line here also would work. And it's just a little 1/2 inch piece at the end here. So what I want to do is, because this is such a small little bit, I want to cut this 1/2 inch piece off first, and then I want to cut this 3-inch piece, and that's going to leave a 2.5 inch piece in the center here. And the math checks, so that all works. So let's bring our paper back in. Let's get that 1/2 inch cut off first. So remember, if you're going to cut something off the opposite edge, and you want to hold on to a larger piece, then just set your piece in. It should be at 6 inches. I want a 1/2 inch, so I'll just move this over 1/2 inch. And that's going to get me 1/2 inch on this edge. So there's that. And then I can cut this piece here at 3 inches, and then this should be 2.5 left over. So 3 inches. Okay, so then this gives me a 3 by 3 inch square. I'll die cut that circle later when I go to, because right now I'm working with my guillotine. You can use a paper trimmer, whatever your favorite cutting paper trimmer is. I don't want to have to switch to die cut and come back to using my guillotine. So I'll die cut when I go to use these pieces. One of the half circles gets used on sketch number 1, the other one gets used on sketch number 2. And that's totally fine. When I go to use this on 1, I'll just take the second half of it and pop it into the envelope for 2. Okay, so we've cut those. What's next? So I want to go ahead and cut this off right here. So this piece measures 3 inches tall, and you have a 2.5 inch square that you're going to cut a circle out of later. So that's this right here. I basically just want to cut 1/2 inch off the top all the way across. So I'm going to rotate this so that it's 2.5. Okay, that gets me this piece here. And this little piece here gets cut into a 1 inch and a 1.5 inch section. So 1 inch and 1.5. All right, so there we have it. All of our pieces for pattern A have been cut. So now let's do a little bit of organization. Let's just drop these into the little baggies that I already have labeled, and that way when I go to make the sketch, I'll have all of the pieces that I need. So sketch number 4, sketch number 4, sketch number 4, sketch number 4. That's denoted in these circles here. So all of these pieces here, I'm going to drop into my sketch number 4 cello bag. This little piece here gets used on sketch 12. So I'll just drop. And you know, when you're putting these together, you could even put your card base in here. You can put your mats and layers in here later as well. You can really just put all the things in. This piece is on sketch number 3. And then I'll decide later when I go to make the sketch if I'm actually using this side or the opposite, because maybe I want to have some options there. This is sketch number 1 first, and then once I die cut it and all of that jazz, I'll pop the remaining piece over to sketch number 2. This square is for sketch number 2, so go ahead and drop that into number 2. Then this is for sketch 7. So here's sketch 7, or the bag for it. Sketch number 12 actually has 2 pieces, this little piece here and that little piece there. Oh, sketch number 7 has 2 pieces also. So this also goes into sketch number 7. All right, so we've got all of our paper A cut and organized into little baggies for me to craft with later. So let's keep rolling. And I'm going to go a little bit faster, but I will still keep this in real time. So paper B looks like that. I'm going to orient my paper B just as it's shown here. And I'll worry about the orientation of the various pieces when we get to the actual sketches, because I know I can always flip to the back if needed. The scissor icon is here, and that is 1.5 inches down from the top. So that's going to be my first cut. And in actual fact, my first cut will be to cut this down to 6 by 6. You might not have to do that if you're working with papers that are already 6 by 6. but that's going to be my very first cut. Okay, so now if you're starting with 6x6, scissor icon 1.5 inches down, so that will be our first cut off the top. And so I'm gonna just push this over by 1.5 and cut. Then with this piece left over down here, my next cut can be here. This segment is 3 inches, so I am going to push this over. Well, let's cut it this way at 3 inches. And it can go all the way from one end to the other without intersecting anything. So, okay. Then this next piece, I can go from this edge all the way over just this 1/2 inch piece here. So that's where we're at. So I can take another 1/2 inch off. That leaves 1 inch on this side and 1/2 inch cut off. Okay. So I've got all of these strips cut. Now let's take it from the top and we'll cut each of them down in turn. So 3 1/4, 2 inches, and then 3/4 of an inch. So I can cut this 3/4 of an inch off first from top to bottom, no problem. So I'm gonna do that. So start at 6 inches, push this over 3/4 of an inch, and we'll get that first piece. That's this one. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna take it and drop it into envelope 11. So this is how I would normally kind of cut and organize at the same time, so that once I'm done cutting, I've also put all of those pieces into the envelopes where they need to be used. So next up is I can either cut down or cut across. And since my paper's already oriented that way, I may as well just cut down 3 1/4. And then each of these gets cut in half, so that I have 3/4 of an inch high. And these 4 pieces are going to go into sketch number 4. So get these 2 in sketch number 4. This also needs to be cut at 3/4 of an inch. And that also goes into sketch number 4. So I'll just drop those in. Okay, next section is this one. It's 3 inches tall in this orientation. And I need to cut 1 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/4, and then the piece that's left is 2 1/4. So I am going to just cut, if you want to cut it exactly to match, then I'm just going to cut off these shorter segments first. So 1 1/4. That gets sketch 5, 1/4 of an inch, and then 1 inch from there. So that's another 1 1/4. There. And then I'm going to move this over 1 1/4. Okay, so these 3 pieces get put into bag 5 for sketch number 5. And then this last piece goes into sketch 11. Okay, Next, we have this strip. Just gonna keep on working down. This one gets cut at 3 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. So let's just get that first 3 1/4. That goes into sketch 7. And just drop that into sketch 7. The next piece is 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. So 1 1/4. And 1 1/2. So 1 1/4 gets put into sketch 7, and then the 1 1/2 is sketch 11. Last strip. This gets cut down at 3 1/2. And that's going to be for sketch number 9. Then the piece that is remaining, this is 2 1/2 wide, and it just needs to get cut at 1/2 inch. And both of these get used on sketch 10. Okay, so sketch 10. All right, we are moving along now onto pattern paper C. Again, look for the scissor icon. That's here at 5 inches down, or really 1 inch from the bottom. But again, I'm using papers that are slightly larger than 6 by 6, so my first cut is going to be to make this a true 6 by 6. And I'm using this side of the pattern paper, so I'm just going to take 1/2 inch off, or 1 inch off at the bottom there. So we have 5 inches on top and 1 inch at the bottom. Let's look at this 5 inch piece. It's easy to cut this one down to 3 3/4. That goes clear one end to the next without intersecting anything else. So get one really nice large piece here for sketch number 6. So let's get that into sketch number 6. And then the piece that's left over is 2 1/4 wide, and I can cut 4 inches down, and then I have 1 inch left over. Okay, this gets used on 8. And this gets used on 11. Okay. Next up, we have our little strip at the bottom here. I can cut right here at 2 3/4. So I have a piece that's 2 3/4 and 3 1/4. The piece that's 3 1/4, that can go into sketch 11. And then this piece left over needs to get cut in half at 1/2 inch. I happen to know the blade on my trimmer is 1/2 inch. Okay, so we got 1/2 inch there. That can go into sketch number 7. And the next 1/2 inch down here, it needs to get cut at 1 3/4, and then you have a 1 inch section left over. 1 3/4. Okay. The 1 3/4 goes with sketch 7. And then that small little piece is sketch 12. Okay. So that was fast, easy peasy. Onto D. Paper D, if we look for the scissor icon, you can start your cut here. But of course, I need to trim this down to 6x6 first. Okay. This line here is at 2 1/4, because if you look at the circle, it says 2 1/4. Also, if you look at, oh, actually it's 2.5. This section is actually 2.5 square. So another hint is, look on this side. This is a 3.5 by 3.5 square. So you can take that as a hint as well. So we'll do 2.5 is where that line is. And that leaves us 3.5 on this side. Okay. So we'll tackle that later. This first one I can cut here to get 2.5 by 2.5. And this piece goes with sketch number 6. I'll cut the circle later. Next we have, this is 2 inches. So this is 1.5. But I can't quite cut the 2 inches yet, because if I cut this at 2 inches, it's going to cut that little 1/2 inch section. So my next cut needs to be here to cut 1/2 inch off. So what I'm going to do is put this in place and then push it over 1/2 inch so that I can cut off 1/2 inch from that right edge. And this little bit here goes on sketch number 7. So you can kind of see how this is a pretty large print. And on a little strip like this, you can barely make out that these are fish. But when it comes to sketch 7, I'll probably flip it over and use it on that side. But we'll play it by ear. We'll see what it looks like when we get there. But meanwhile, I'm going to drop it in. So now that I've cut that, I have this remaining. Now I can cut this 2 inch section off. Okay, and that 2 inch piece goes with sketch number 6. And now I've got this piece here, but I have to cut 1/2 inch off from that edge. So I'm going to do the same thing, where I'm going to push this over by 1/2 inch. And that's going to get me my last 2 pieces. This goes with sketch 6. That last one goes with sketch number 7. All right. Next, we have this other half. So I've taken care of that piece. Let's cut this off. So this is 2.5, 3.5. Okay, so this 3.5 piece goes with sketch number 9. And then we have this piece remaining. I can just start cutting off 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And then what I'll be left with is 2 inches here. So this starts at 3.5. So just push 1/2 inch. cut, push 1/2 inch, cut, and another 1/2 inch. Cut. So now I've got 2 by 2.5, and then these 1/2 inch by 2.5. This one gets put into sketch number 8. These two go for sketch 10. And this one is sketch 7. All right, paper D is done. Paper E. All right, so let's trim this down to 6 by 6. Again, you may not have to do this first step if your papers are already 6 by 6. So looking for the icon of the scissors, we're gonna cut 3/4 inch off from the bottom. So I like to hold on to a larger piece here. So I'm just gonna rotate my paper so the top is here and push this over by 3/4 inch. That's this bottom section here. And then with this next one, I can just cut strips. So 4 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. So what I'm gonna do is just push it over 1 inch, cut, push it over 1 inch, and cut. So I have this big piece goes with sketch 12, and the 2 smaller pieces go on sketch 13. Okay, so those and these go here. Then this little 3/4 inch strip here. The next cut I want to make is here for a 3 inch wide section. This goes with sketch number 8. And then the piece that's remaining, there's a little bit of black out here, and that means that this actually gets trimmed smaller. But I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I'm just going to make this cut across. So this is 1/2 inch, and then a 1/4 inch strip. Okay, so this taller piece is sketch 11. And then the small little piece is sketch number 1. Okay, so there's that. That was fast. That was paper E. And now we're down to our last one, paper F. Get this trimmed down to 6 by 6. Our scissor icon is down here. So again, we're gonna have 5 1/4 up at the top, and we're just trimming 3/4 at the bottom. So I'm gonna rotate so the top is now here, and that way I can push this over 3/4 inch from the 6 inch mark is 5 1/4. That gives me this piece at the bottom. This large piece I can cut 1/2 inch off and then 1 1/2 off of the right edge. So lining this up at 6 inches, I want to go half from 6, so that's at 5 1/2. So that gets me the 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to push it over 1 1/2. So there's a 1/2 inch, takes us to 5 and then to 4. Okay. And those cuts are done. This goes into sketch 14. And then this one is sketch 13, this one. And this small one at the end here is sketch 15. Okay. Next we have this piece here, which we just need to cut at 5 1/4. And then you have a little 3/4 inch off. Okay, and the little piece, the 3/4 inch section, that goes into sketch 13, and then the slightly wider one is sketch 15. So there we have that. We're done cutting. So I've got all of my little bags organized, numbered. I've got all the pattern papers cut for all of these sketches. Now, one of the things that I'm gonna do to make the next video go a little bit faster is I'm actually going to prepare my card bases, so you won't have to watch me do that. And I am going to maybe pick some additional papers to go with the card sketches. Here's what I mean. So I'm going to do this off camera, but I'm going to talk about it now, just so that if you are going to follow along with me, you can maybe be doing this until we meet again for the next video in this series. So what I'm going to do is for each of these sketches, when you look at the sketches, you're going to see dimensions for everything, and you are going to see some areas that are shown in white, gray, or black. And that's where you can make your own paper choices. So, for example, if I were to look at sketch number 1, maybe we'll start to do a couple of these together. Sketch number 1 really features half of this. So when I go to make this, I'll go ahead and die cut that circle. And there's going to be this little strip. Actually works out really nicely paper E as the little bit of a sentiment with these this typography. And there's going to be this gray other half of the circle. There's a 4 by 5 1/4 inch panel. And so what I'm inclined to do is just kind of go back to our pattern papers and just see if is there like a pattern paper that I might like to use as the background to go with this sketch. And looking at this, this might be lovely as a really dark pattern in the background, and you can, it's kind of nice. This will get cut into a circle, and we'll have a half circle, and maybe I'll pick a solid to go as the other half, and then that in between. So what I'm going to do off camera before I rejoin you for part 2 of this series is I might go ahead and start to cut those mats in layers. So for example, this shows 4 by 5 1/4. So what I'm going to do is just going to cut this to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to tuck this into my cello bag for sketch number 1. So then I just need a card base, and that's ready to go. And so I'm going to just keep on visiting each of these. And this is another really simple one. It's 2 half circles from this and then half a circle from that. So mostly this paper. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just go search some of my pattern papers. Maybe I want to set it against this gray as my background. But I have plenty of other pattern papers that I can use. Like maybe I want super monochromatic. I can go with that. I can choose like a solid. I can choose one of these patterns, like a lot of the fish in the background. So it's one of those things where you can just maybe have a little bit of a play. Maybe it's not extra pattern paper that that you use, but instead maybe maybe using some solid color cardstock. You can use an embossed panel. You can use whatever you would like to choose for anything that you see in white and gray. So I might actually take this other typographical and put that against this. So that could be fun. Or take one of the simple patterns. And what I like to look for is something with some good contrast though. And that way the light versus dark. And the thing is, you can you know, if you have something that's really dark like this, the contrast between them make them both more visible and stands apart a little bit better. So and if you are at a loss for what to use, often if you just flip to the back, you might have like a really good option to go with. So that's always a really easy option to try. And I think what I might do, I'm not going to do the whole process for all 15, but just to show you a couple, just so that we can get started. I may actually, with this sketch, what I think might be fun is to use this, which is pretty busy as a background. And I'm going to be putting another print on top of it, but I actually might cut a slightly larger circle or maybe like a scalloped edge, you know, to these extra circles and have a little bit of a border outside of that. So I think that could be fun. And I'm going to cut this panel to 4 by 5 1/4, just as it says here. And I'm going to keep track of these extra little pieces because I can use those extra little pieces. So I'll find a way to use those. So 4 by 5 1/4. So, and I'll show you, we'll do one more just so that I can show you. For example, this one right here, this is sketch number 3, and it uses this piece here on an angle. But look at this piece left over. It's definitely wide enough. I can layer it right on top, maybe trim this down a little bit, and use that as these border pieces here. Certainly you can cut these as thin little strips, but I've got the cardstock already, or the pattern paper, that's a perfect fit, a great match already, and it just needs to get trimmed a little, so let's use it. So I'm going to put that there. I'll trim it to fit when I go to make that card. So that's my first 3. I even have some of the mats and layers to go with it already. I think I'm in good shape. I'm going to continue this and then look forward to my next segment in this video series where I actually start to assemble these cards.